Greetings, sisters and brothers out there. It is time once again to explore the world of religion. Joining us today, not really, is Dr. Michael Brown. He claims to have a PhD in Near Eastern languages and literatures from the University of New York. He has been kind enough to post what appears to be an article on stream.org. And I looked over this website and it is just batshit crazy. I mean, the alternate reality of the people who wrote here. I mean, not just Sir Brown, but it's just staggering. Completely contrary to demonstrable reality and direct observation. But I digress. Today we read the article, Some Honest Questions for Atheists. I'm sorry, I tested that so that I could not chuckle but I couldn't do it. So, some honest questions for atheists. There, no chuckle. Honesty among fundamentalist Christians and fundamentalist Christianity is, of course, as rare as hen's teeth. I mean, it happens sometimes. It is extremely rare. Some little, like hen's teeth, as the chicken fetus is developing, get little tiny teeth nubs. Just like fundamentalist Christians sometimes get little tiny nubs of honesty. But just like hen embryos, those nubs of honesty among fundamentalist Christianity gets reabsorbed into the bone structure that makes them up, as it were. And we don't see any actual honesty once they hatch, as it were. So, if this person is honest, then it will be one of the first, probably the first time that I've ever read about or heard about or seen a honest fundamentalist Christian. So, we'll see if this person's questions are honest. To begin, if you considered yourself an atheist today, or if you considered yourself an atheist in the past, I'd love to ask you some honest questions. Why? What difference could it possibly make to this person? Quoting again, but I do not ask these questions to win a debate, of course, because you would lose, or to be antagonistic. Huh? When are fundamentalist Christians not antagonistic? Or to buttress my own beliefs by exposing alleged weaknesses in your position? The discussion is atheist. The lack of a position about the gods. Atheists don't have a position, let alone weaknesses in those positions, or that position, or the missionary position, or the doggy anyhow. On the contrary, I ask these questions so I can better understand your mindset as an atheist. There is no mindset about atheist or atheism. It is not a mindset. It is not a belief. It is the lack of a belief. It is a null position. It is the human default. People are born atheist. Many of them stay atheist. A lot of them do not stay atheist. To continue quoting, my wife Nancy and I met in year 1974. We don't give a crap. I don't give a crap. I mean, I'm sure that Nancy is a really nice person and that I'm really happy for you, even if you don't beat her like the Bible tells you to and stuff like that. So, I was committed I was a committed believer in Jesus. We don't do involuntary commitments these days, so I'm glad that you were committed, and I hope that you got better. And my life dramatically transformed in 1971. She was a staunch atheist, looking down on religious believers as weak. She sounds the more intelligent of the two. I'll give her that. And her atheism was firmly entrenched in her life, having concluded when she was no more than 8 years old that there was no such thing as God, I presume gods plural. Yes, it would have been great if he was real. There are also female gods. But clearly, she concluded, he was not. For the record, Nancy and I are both Jewish. Thank you for making the record clear. I mean, we wanted to know that. I mean, I was really wondering. Nancy had her own unique, unexpected encounter with God in 1974. I hope they use protection. But she has always rejected the idea that there is no such thing as an atheist. That does make her intelligent, yes. She is correct. Very good for her. I mean, I'm liking this Nancy much more than I like this Michael. So, and over the years, she has helped me better understand how atheists think and how they view the world. Ask 500 atheists what they think, and you'll get 500 and something answers. Different! Atheism is not a worldview. It is the lack of a worldview that encompasses the gods. Null hypothesis. Michael Brown, you were born an atheist. Something happened to you that made you not an atheist. Something terrible happened to you. And you gave up reason. You gave up cognitive abilities and your God-given right to use your brain intellectually and honestly. On James Brown's page on Stream, it is, quote, he became a believer in Jesus, 1971, as a 16-year-old, heroin-shooting, LSD-using Jewish rock drummer, end of quote. How about we see some evidence that he was actually heroin-shooting and LSD-using? One can see in fundamentalist Christianity a shitload of preachers making claims about their past that are not true. They need to have a little story where they were terrible, terrible sinners, but through the light of pick a god, they became holy and they gave up their life of heroin shooting and LSD using. I'm hoping for Dr. Brown's sake that he is still a Jewish rock drummer. Back to honest questions. It is in that spirit of genuine wanting to understand the atheist mindset better that I ask these questions. There is no such thing as an atheist mindset, so you're shit out of luck, Dr. Brown. Apparently, there's a caption. Is your atheism based on study or experience? Oh well, there went the honesty in honest questions. This assertion, under the pretense of asking questions, only gives two answers that we can choose from. On study or experience. Is your atheism based on study or experience? It was based on me being born. did not take any study to not believe the gods exist. It did not take any experience to not believe the gods don't exist, or do exist, or whatever. Atheism, the null hypothesis, the default, neither for nor against, but null. Atheism. And I repeat, Dr. Brown, you were born an atheist. You did not believe the gods exist. You did not believe the gods did not exist. Atheism. Quote, put another way, was it the lack of answers to prayers or failures within organized religion or some other anti-faith experience that first caused you to question the existence of God? I presume gods, plural. I have no knowledge of any monotheism currently existing anywhere on the planet. The most popular religions, some of the most popular religions are henotheisms. Christianity is a henotheism. Judaism is a henotheism. Pick one of the other currently popular religions, or some of them. Henotheisms, not monotheisms. The answer is, does not apply. None of the above. Not applicable. It doesn't take any failures of prayer or failures within organized religions to not believe the gods exist or not. Notice the double negative. Neither for nor against. Null. Atheism. Null. Has nothing to do with prayer or the failure of prayer or what cultists do when they're organized. I continue. Or was it something you learned in school or your studies that caused you to doubt? That makes no sense. Not doubting and not doubting is the default position, i.e. null. Schools have nothing to do with lacking the belief that the gods exist. I mean, when one is intelligent and one ponders the issue, they will come to the conclusions that, oh, there's absolutely no evidence that I can see or has been presented or could possibly exist that suggests that the gods exist. I mean, I would love to see some evidence of that the gods exist. I mean, holy shit. I find that intellectually interesting. I mean, I would love to question the gods and ask them what planet they evolved on. I would love to see their fossil record progressing into godhood. But it appears that if the gods do exist, they're hiding from us. And since they are hiding from us, they must have a reason why they are hiding from us. And it is certainly not up to me to go out and look where they're hiding and go, ah, I found you. I mean, that would not be polite. Or were you raised without belief in God, gods, plural, and you've never found a good reason to question it? One does not question the lack of a belief in the gods. See what I mean? The question, which is actually assertions, pretending to be questions, dishonest. I mean, I could have wagered $5,000 at the beginning of this video before I read this that Parson Brown would not be honest, and therefore his questions would not be honest. I would have won the wager. Next caption, does God exist? I presume he means gods, plural. Third, would you say that you are 100% sure there is no such being as God or gods? That makes no sense. The question is atheist. This person is asking questions, I mean, he's making assertions, asking questions to atheists. So, asking the question, are you 100% sure there is no such being as a God, is dishonest. Atheists don't believe there are no such thing as gods. Null position. Not for, not against, null. And you know what? I am for goddamn sure positive that this person knows that. He defines what he means by God, which I assume applies to all or some of the gods, meaning an eternal, all-powerful, all-knowing being. That would be the universe. I mean, you would have to redefine being, but we know that nothing in the universe is eternal because it had a beginning, and it looks like it will not have an ending. It'll just keep expanding and expanding and expanding. Long after heat death happens to the universe, the matter in the universe will, of course, decay back into the universal fields from which the quantum mechanical vibrations in those fields popped the subatomic particles into existence. They will slowly seep back into those fields, and we'll have a homogeneous field, and there will be no matter in the universe. It'll be completely empty, but it will keep expanding. Therefore, time will keep going. So, an eternal, you would have to wait a really long time, I mean, forever, for something to be an eternal. But I digress. Or would you say that, for all practical purposes, you have concluded that this God, name one, there's a great many, does not exist, although it is impossible to prove such a negative with absolute certainty. Atheists do not assert the negative. Atheists do not assert the positive. Atheists do not assert honest questions. This person knows, I was going to say goddamn well again, but I'm trying to think of another, I'm coming up blank here. Captain, can science explain the origin of life? Yes. Fourth, do you believe that science can provide answers for many of the remaining mysteries of our universe, including how the universe began, including where matter came from and where the Big Bang derived its energy, the origin of life, and DNA coding? Yes, yes, and wrong. DNA is not a code. There's given nothing to read the DNA sequencing. It is not a code. It does not have information. I mean, there's shitload of books on this subject. So DNA coding, the word coding is fraudulent. It does not actually apply to DNA. So, we know where matter came from. This is certain. This is 99.999999999 certainty where matter came from. We know right up to a tiny fraction of a second where when the Big Bang banged, where the matter came from. We know this. We can calculate it. It has been calculated. It has been calculated how much of the lightest elements were created at the Big Bang. And we even know why. And in science, how means why. So we know this shit. As for where did the Big Bang derive its energy? The answer is no. Taken as a whole, the universe, this universe, does not have any energy. It is net zero energy. There are several hypotheses for where the Big Bang, how it was caused, why it was caused, because how equals y, or y equals how. No, how equals y. And some of them include an infinite well, I can't go into that now. Some scientists, or some astrophysicists believe, and they do have a good point, that the Big Bang was actually not a Big Bang, and that if you take the current universe that we are in, and you look at the dimensions, there's probably anywhere from 6 to 8 dimensions that we exist in. The highest possible dimensions that can exist in a universe is 11, by the way. I did the math, and there is a proof, by the way. But if you take a n equals 6 universe, and you look at it with the 6 dimensions, you can propagate the Big Bang expansion back to a Big Bang expansion, and from that Big Bang expansion, a Big Bang expansion. So infinite propagation of the Big Bang, don't mean over and over and over again, but dimensionally speaking, it folds itself. Anyhow, there's math involved. Look it up. But, okay, I'm sorry. Again, these questions are not intended to stump you. I'm sorry. Or prove that science can't answer everything. Stump me? I'm an atheist. Where the universe came from has nothing to do with atheism. Ask an astrophysicist, ask a quantum physicist where the universe came from. You will be told correctly, the correct answer, right up to a tiny fraction of before the Big Bang banged. We know what happened in the first 3 seconds of the Big Bang, and we know everything that followed. We can calculate it mathematically. It has been done. We know the answer. This is not something that atheists need to know. Why ask atheists? Why ask atheists about DNA? Why ask atheists about where the matter comes from? We know where the elements came from, inside stars. We know that the heavy elements came from supernova, and some of them nova, because that's the only way that the higher temperatures can be created inside stellar cores that have enough pressure and therefore energy to make the higher elements, the heavier elements. So we know where matter came from. We can calculate, using quantum physics, what was in the universe at the tiny fraction of an instant after the Big Bang. We can calculate how much hydrogen would be created, and helium, and barium, I believe, was another element. Very, very small, but all calculated. We look out into the vast void and we see that the calculations are correct by actual measurement. Yay, science. What the bloody fuck, holy fuck, does this have anything to do with atheists or atheism? The issue is lacking the belief that the gods exist. Go ask someone working in the relevant field. Okay. Instead, I'm genuinely wondering if you feel comfortable saying, quote, "We may not be able to answer all these questions now, but over time we'll get the answers, and we won't need a God to fill the gaps." That is correct. Why would somebody not feel comfortable stating that fact? I don't get it. What I don't find comfortable is people who insist that since we don't know the answers, therefore the gods did it. Which we come to Reverend Michael Brown here. Next caption. Have you questioned your atheism? That's just fucking hilarious. You know, I don't believe in Santa Claus. I mean, I have no belief that Santa Claus exists. Don't believe that he doesn't exist. It's just null. How is one going to question that? If I see evidence of Santa Claus or evidence that the gods exist, and I examine the evidence and it seems solid evidence, I will tentatively accept the fact that it looks like the gods exist. Tentative. I might be compelled to change my mind and my conclusion based on further evidence. So, produce evidence that the gods exist, and I will love to see it. And until then, null hypothesis, i.e. atheist. I'm going to skip this shit. Let's see. No, I should. Fifth, have you had any experiences in life that caused you to question your atheism? The question makes no sense. It is actually a assertion poised as a question. Honest questions for atheists? Bullshit. Has something happened to you that's seemingly genuine, supernatural, or otherworldly? No. Or have you been confronted with some information that shook your atheistic foundations, such as a scientific argument for intelligent design? No. There is no scientific argument for intelligent design. The creationists had their day in court. They could not produce any evidence. They eventually admitted that they could not produce any evidence, and that intelligent design creationism is a faith, not any scientific hypothesis. It's not even a scientific suggestion. It doesn't even meet the lowliest requirement for science to even look at it. So if so, how have you dealt with such doubts about your atheism? It is not so, and doubts about atheism doesn't make any sense. Next caption, and I realized before starting this video that it would be long. Are you materialistic? Yes. I am made out of material. I mean, it's worn out, it's exhausted, it's in the express checkout lane. My body is catching up with my brain. My brain was... Anyhow. Where was I? Oh, please feel sorry for me. 6. Are you completely materialistic in your mindset, meaning human beings are entirely physical, human consciousness is an illusion? No, it's not. And there is no spiritual realm of any kind? Yes, no, yes. Are you superstitious, reading horoscopes, or engaging in New Age practices or the like? No, no, no. Fundamentalist Christians are, by the way. Would you be willing to follow God? Depends on the God. I know that one of the best gods I can think of is Inanna, of course. I mean, if you read the Epic of Gilgamesh, there's a really hysterically funny part where I believe it was Gilgamesh before he was king, and he was a soldier, and he was tromping down the road alone with his sword and his armor and stuff, and he was weary and he just wanted to get home, and he was walking down the road, dirt road, of course. They didn't have, anyhow. And goddess Inanna saw him, and she desired him. So she rushed up ahead on the road. And of course, Inanna is, eternally naked. Where was I? The camera just quit. She had this really voluptuous, gorgeous body. I'm talking tits up to here. Well, I mean, that's where they generally are. And, perfect hourglass shape. And her legs were just so beautifully formed. And her beautiful neck and her face was just, the most beautiful woman, even though she is a goddess. And she was naked, and she found a tree to lean up against, and she thrust her crotch forward. And the Epic of Gilgamesh describes how her pubic hair glistened in the light of the sun. And I believe it's Gilgamesh, comes up to her, and of course she proposes that they become lovers. I mean, passionately insane, embracing lovers. And of course he says, "Hell no! I know you! I know what you do to men!" And he gives a funny, long list of what Inanna had done to famous men in Gilgamesh's history. And it's just fucking hilarious. So, I would follow her, yes. I would not follow some of the other goddesses or gods. It depends on the goddess or god. So Sir Dr. Brown's question does not make any sense. I mean, even Aphrodite, she took the side of Paris and his army in the battle at Troy. She put on her shield, and she picked up a sword, and she started chopping mortals. So she had her positives, and she had her little, human quirks, slaughtering people. So it depends. Tell me which god, and then we'll discuss it. So, would you be willing to follow God? I answered that. 7th, if you were convinced that God truly exists, gods, plural, meaning the God of the Bible, that's gods of the Bible. Has Michael Brown not read the book of Job, wherein the gods were sitting around wherever the gods live, and one of the sons of one of the gods asked the god El if people worshipped him just for the benefits, just for the blessings that El bestowed upon them. And this came to a wager, and the god El said, "Consider my servant Job." And we all know that Job got the treatment. One of the sons of one of the gods. Read the Hebrew. It will say, one of the sons of one of the gods. By the way, Yahweh was a son of the god El. Yahweh was the Canaanite volcano god, and also a sex god. So when Israelites and Judaites and Hebrews wanted to ensure that there was a pregnancy would actually happen, they would go to the temple of Yahweh, where there would be priests there. And they would make damn sure that, yes, this young lady got enough holy service that pregnancy was likely, or at least a good possibility. And then, of course, the women would go back to their houses, and they would take their house idols down, and they would cram them up their vagina. All of this is in the Bible, by the way, the Hebrew Testament. So, gods, plural, meaning the gods of the Bible. Speaking of honesty, is there any fundamentalist Christian out there who will honestly state these honest and factual facts that the Bible, the Hebrew Testament, and the Christian Testament are multi-theistic? Many gods. Will they stand up in front of their congregations and say, you know what? The god Yahweh was actually a son of the god El, and El had a whole bunch of God's sons and daughters. Um, and it even says so in the Bible that there are many gods. Will they be honest to say that? No, they will not. Even when they know this is a goddamn fact, they will not be honest and tell their customers the facts. No honesty in fundamentalist Christianity. Never has been, never will be. By the way, Michael Brown. I don't know if you want Dr. Michael Brown or Reverend Michael Brown, Sir Brown, Toasted Brown. I don't know the honorific. Why do fundamentalist Christians utterly abhor and have revulsion for and outrage against the teachings of Jesus as the Christian Testament has him saying what he taught? Where are the followers of Jesus? We have a shitload of Christians out there. Where are the followers of Jesus? Are you Christians, i.e., you're supposed to be following the teachings of Jesus? Do you beg for a living? Do you have your begging bowl? Have you taken up your bowl and begged for a living? No? Then you're not followers of Jesus. Are you communist? Jesus taught communism among his followers. He gave up all of their possessions. The possessions belonged to the group. And if somebody had like a really nice cloak, that would be given away so that they only had robes and rags to wear, which was befitting of a mendicant, of a person who walked around begging for a living. This is what Jesus taught. Read the fucking Christian Testament. I mean, I would love to see Christians read what they believe to be the Word of God. They refuse. They will not. So, Christians, if you had, or if you will, follow Jesus and abandon Christianity, the world would be a wonderful, wonderful place. People would care about each other. We would support each other. We would have universal health care here in the United States. Women and children and girls, specifically girls and women, would be cherished and honored as equals among boys and men. Follow Jesus, please. I am begging you, for the love of God, follow Jesus. You won't. Let's see, where were we? And would you be willing to follow him and honor him if he were a God, or truly God? No. If a God or the gods show up, I will not follow them until they demonstrate they are worthy of me following them. They have to be worthy in my eyes, in my judgment, for me to even like them, let alone follow them. By the way, Michael Brown, you don't follow Jesus. Why not? You follow Christianity. You do not follow Jesus. I looked at the titles of some of your books. I looked at the free samples of some of your books. You loathe Jesus and everything positive that Jesus taught. You embrace Christianity. You do not embrace Jesus. So, get your own house in order. I did worship somebody once. She was... what can I say about her? Her name was Andrea Lynn Goldie. And she was I worshipped her. I adored her. I mean, we're talking batshit crazy, insanely bipolar in love with her. Like higher than the International Space Station 1 minute, deep, dark depression the next minute, and then high again, and the terrible, terrible roller coaster of just being near her and just adoring and worshiping her so much. And there was a reason why I worshipped her. She was hyper intelligent, extremely intelligent, and she was extremely witty, and she was clever, and she bested me in some of my critical thinking skills and my word association skills, and we would have tests, and we would make up funny comic routines, I guess you could call it, and I would state something very funny, and she would follow it, adding to that something that was even funnier, and of course I had to top that, and sometimes I could, and when she was the clear winner, which for me, she was the first and only person who could actually match my wit and exceed it. So she had earned my worship by being better at me, or than me, at what I love the best to do, and that is to be witty and clever. So she was hyper intelligent, like I mentioned. So I want to mention the question was why. He didn't ask straight out, but why am I an atheist? Other than being born an atheist, why did I stay an atheist? I have this brain, and it is superior to the typical average brain. I have an atypical brain. I am a person of Asperger's. I am autistic. My brain is larger than the average. The regions around the amygdalum, I think it's pronounced, are enlarged more than the average typical brain, and this resulted in augmented intelligence. With testing, it was found that I was placed among my peers in the top 1.5% of whatever IQ scores measure. So my twin brother was 1.4%. So the bastard beat me by 0.1%. And I'm never going to live that down. I mean, a twin brother that had demonstrated he's more intelligent than I am, at least in answering IQ scores. I mean, more than 60 years, I'm still not over it. Anyhow, this atypical brain did not become a theist because it is intelligent. It is abnormally intelligent. I have suffered greatly by having a more than average intelligent brain. It is not an accomplished, it is not bragging. I really hate it. I would love to be normal, as in average. But I bring this up because there was a recent poll on the subreddit called Asperger's. Is nobody going to God bless me? No, that was a cough, not a sneeze. The question for the poll reads, quote, "Sorry if personal, but do you believe in God?" Question mark. I took the liberty to assume that the person meant gods because there's so goddamn many gods out there. And approximately 3,900 people voted on this poll. I don't like having polls, rounded up or rounded down, but I wanted to see the exact numbers, but the poll didn't give us that. So 3.9 3,900 people voted. Of those 3,900 people, 129 said they are extremely religious. This is among Asperger's people. 129 out of 3,900 that were extremely religious. 465 were said they are religious. 465 religious. And if you do the numbers, that comes to 15.25% of theists out there that were either extremely religious or religious. 15.25%. The nuns, latest polling, the popular polling question these days, like Pew Research and stuff like that, Gallup Research, for atheists and agnostics, they lump all those together under nuns. The nuns, 1,500 agnostics. The atheist, 1,800 atheist. That comes to 85% nuns. Don't believe the gods exist, are not religious. There is a reason for this. And I believe that the reason is Asperger's people tend to be more intelligent than average. Atypical people tend to be more intelligent than neurotypical people. Also, among Asperger's people, I am assuming that the social need to have a alpha male to placate and to believe in and hope to get blessings and chunks of meat and stuff like that is either missing or very dim among Asperger's people because they are autistic. What is socially necessary for typical brains is not necessarily so for autistic brains, and exceptionally so for Asperger's. So, that answers the reason why I stayed an atheist after I was born. I'm too goddamn intelligent. Plus, I don't need to have belief that there is a hierarchy that I must placate and bow down to. I do not have the mammalian need for that. Religionists, the reason they chiefly believe the gods exist, they believe in hierarchy. They accept hierarchy. They think that it is necessary. It is baked into them because they have neurotypical brains. They have ape brains. By the way, Dr. Brown, you're an ape. See this right here? This is an ape face. I am an ape. I mean, just look at me. Ape. But the difference between us, I do not follow the hierarchical social constructs that apes tend to follow. I don't see the need for something called authority, where the authority is self-derived. I am an authority. I am clergy. Listen to me. I am telling you what God told me to tell you. God is my alpha male. I am your sub-alpha male. You do what I say. You think how I think. And you think how I tell you to think, because goddamn only knows that most clergy do not actually state what they think. If they think at all. It would be disastrous to fundamentalist Christianity for the priests and the rabbis, ministers, parsons, preachers, to actually state what they know is true. They would be out of a job. I looked at, like I mentioned, Michael Brown published a pamphlet regarding if Christians had passed the Trump test. Dr. Michael Graham, the answer is no. You fundamentalist Christians did not pass the Trump test. You bastards voted for him twice. Remember the story of the Antichrist? There's actually historical writings about the Antichrist and where he was born, where he was raised, how he became emperor of Rome, how he ignored Rome crises. I mean, just Rome was being bombarded by economic pressure and military pressure from the north, and the Antichrist didn't give a shit. He married a whore, then he married another whore, and when it came to actually giving competent people jobs in the Roman government, he sold them to the highest bidder. Who does this remind you of, Dr. Michael Brown? The Antichrist has arrived. You guys voted for him twice. Look at Emperor Nero, the Antichrist, and the history written about him. Look at Trump and what he had done to us. Fucking identical. And you bastards voted for him twice. You dropped the fucking ball. You inflicted horror upon the United States of America. And if you now regret it, fuck you. I do not accept your apology. Anyhow, I have answered your questions, Michael Brown. Now what are you going to do with my answers?